Hololive has been one of, if not the biggest VTuber group in the industry. Its influence has even reached a wider audience outside of the traditional Japanese market. Seeing Hololive achieving this is certainly amazing, but more interestingly, their deployment of different strategies to succeed in such a saturated market deserves more attention, especially when you consider they were still far behind other big names such as Nichisanji a year before, when they were rolling out members of the third generation. I believe most of you started approaching VTubers at late last year, where at the time YouTube started promoting highlights and translations of VTuber streams. The most noticeable ones, of course, are from our beloved Hololive. Maybe you started watching them because you like watching cute anime girls doing stuff, or wanting to learn Japanese, or just simply wanting to listen to cute anime girls speaking. No matter what intentions you have in the first place, there's one thing we can all agree with, and that is we are all attracted to them. However, we can't see such a phenomenon in the past, where there was a huge influx of non-Japanese speaking audiences in the VTuber market. That's the ingenious aspect of Hololive's marketing strategies. Attempting to develop a wider range of audience was certainly tried by some other companies or VTuber groups in the past. Hololive is definitely not the first one to do it, but they sure are the first ones to reach the moon. Like many other things, Hololive's success is not coincidental, but rather is the combined effort of staff and fans, probably with a hint of ingenuity from the CEO Yagu. In this video, we will be discussing what Hololive was, why they have hopped up in the VTuber industry, how their different strategies at approaching the market have warranted their success, and who is in charge for such a huge success. Without further ado, let's get started. Hololive, like many other VTuber groups, strictly follows the free-range tactic. The characteristics of the strategy is, staff and managers would only influence the VTubers at a minimum degree, and would only intervene when necessary. This was first used by Nichisanji, but it was just because the parent company did not really see the potential of the VTuber market and only wanted some cheap and quick promotion. It can be broken down into two reasons. The first was Ichikara wanted to quickly grab onto the VTuber hype train at the time to promote their new face capture app of the same name. And the second was Ichikara did not want to pour resources into an unknown market that was dominated by a few VTubers, therefore putting in as less effort as possible. It was after the explosion in popularity by Tsukino Mito that gained Nichisanji itself and other companies' attention to this strategy. Hololive, like Nichisanji, was also looking to promote their face capture app of the same name, so they have copied Nichisanji's strategy and rolled out their first group of VTubers at mid-2018, formed ones behind Nichisanji. Their approach to this strategy, however, is different from Nichisanji, where they actually put effort into making their VTubers being one of the best in the industry. For example, they actually recruit individual talents that have video production or live streaming experiences and train them to suit the needs of the scene. That's why you can see the quality of streams when compared to Nichisanji is generally higher, especially in the early days. In fact, almost all Hololive members had found streaming on Nico Nico or YouTube before they joined Hololive. However, despite the fact that they poured more resources than Nichisanji, they still did not really see huge success except one or two members at the time. How the tactic ties in with the VTubers is important, as it directly affects how they can present their talents in front of the audience. In a traditional idol group, idols were being asked or even forced to follow a set of guidelines that might otherwise be considered as hurting the company's image. Strict routines such as training and sleeping are also needed to be followed by idols. In South Korea, before idols become trainees, they even need to sign a contract that will force them to commit fully to the company, in some cases until they are 30 years old. These kinds of absurd rule sets, although make companies have less of a pain to deal with when it comes to company image building, but it costs the idol's personal life. It has improved a lot from the start of the idol culture, but these traits can still be seen as a relic in many idol groups. Hololive, although promotes themselves as a virtual idol group, they are still after all a virtual icon, which is fundamentally different from real-life idols, and this plays a very important role in collaborating this strategy into their company. What the free-range tactic brings to the table is, it gives their VTubers a chance to fully present themselves to the public without restraints. In other words, they can do whatever the hell they want. After all, this is a virtual world, and their performance, although might still affect the company's image in some way, is still a far cry from real life, and the distance between real life and the virtual world has led the audience to be more connected to them personally. That's why traditional idols can't really achieve this. They are less approachable. You can't just talk to an idol like how you talk to VTubers. In my previous video about Minecraft, I've talked about how VTubers used Minecraft as a tool to connect to their audience and be more relatable. The free-range tactic can be regarded as the embodiment of this concept, where VTubers are free to talk whatever they want, wherever they want. This might destroy some of the character or even company image, but the popularity it brings to the table by only being relatable to the audience far outweighs the possible consequences. Moreover, it's more of building character traits than destroying it. In my video about Kiryu Coco, I've talked about how building character traits and establishing branding plays an important part in attracting new viewership. The premise of what Kiryu Coco did is the free-range tactic and its effects. Imagine there's a piece of white paper where you are allowed to draw stuff onto it. If you choose to follow a set of guidelines to draw, the outcome of the drawing would certainly be promising, but it would lack the distinctiveness that can set you apart from other drawings that have a similar result. If you choose to follow your mind and draw whatever you like, although there's no guarantee on how good or bad the drawings are, that's enough to distinguish you from the rest of the group. Establishing brandings and traits that can distinguish yourself from the rest of the pack is especially important in the VTuber industry, as the market becomes more and more saturated. Giving something different to the audience might just be the boost that helps you climb up the ladder of YouTube. The only shame of Hololive's strategy is that their VTubers did not really take advantage of the free-range tactic and did not see huge success. At this point you might ask, but how have they transitioned from an ordinary VTuber group to one of the biggest in the world? Well, you see, it's obviously more than just the free-range tactic. Choosing target audience is important, but as I mentioned in almost every one of my videos, the Japanese VTuber market is extremely saturated, with more and more VTubers debuting every day while the amount of audience tends to remain the same. Although different strategies can still be used to increase your share in the market, but ultimately there's a point where increasing market share is almost impossible. To avoid this issue, many companies choose to either target a completely new or different market, or in Hololive's case, expand upon the current market. In other words, discovering and targeting non-Japanese audiences. The practice of targeting non-Japanese audiences is no stranger to the industry. Many have done it before Hololive. An example would be Kizuna Ai and Joey the Anime Man's collab back in mid-2018. The main point is, targeting non-Japanese audiences has always been a thing VTuber companies are trying to do, but most of them either did not work out at all, or the impacts are just not significant enough for the general public to notice. Another example would be Nijisanji and its Nijisanji IM project, where its fuzzy market positioning made it miss its opportunity to properly promote itself to the general English audience. Before being widely known by the non-Japanese speaking audience, Hololive already started targeting Chinese audiences back in 2019 in the Chinese video platform called Bilibili. They did receive quite a huge success, but it's not really comparable to Ichikara's virtual real project. Since the Chinese scene is so different from both the Japanese and non-Japanese VTuber scene and is complicated to explain, I will not be explaining in detail on their developments in China, and I'm probably not the one to ask from anyways. Hololive's strategies at targeting the English audience are very different from other companies. Instead of building a new group that is dedicated to specific zones of audience straight away, they start by building their company image in the English-speaking community. There are a few strategies they deployed to make them start gaining influence in the English-speaking VTuber community, but the two noticeable ones are definitely increase in highlights of their VTubers and directly letting their VTubers join the English community. Have you noticed how many subtitle groups have appeared over the course of the last few months? What about the last subtitled Hololive videos you saw? When did the subtitle group that translated the video started their YouTube channel? Surprisingly enough, most of the YouTube English subtitle groups started their channel either around or after but close to Hololive's 4th Gen debut. For example, let's take a look at the biggest English Hololive subtitle group called Hololive Moments. The subtitle group had their channel founded on 17th of December 2019. Let's take a look at another channel, Rezado Subs. This channel was founded on 13th of December 2019, again very close to the 4th Gen debut. Since there are so many new VTuber subtitle groups that pops up at the moment, Hololive chose the obvious choice and took advantage of this by fully utilizing the amounts of English subtitle groups to help promote their group to the English community. This is where Kiru Coco comes into play. She perfectly utilizes her resources and her character to promote herself as much to the English-speaking audience as possible, with the help of highlighting and translating groups of course. This way, Coco can establish connections with the English-speaking audience, therefore attracting them to approach Coco. Then Coco can simply pass her newfound English audience to other VTubers in the group. If you want to know more about the marketing strategies she used, please take a look at my video about her where I had a more in-depth analysis on her marketing strategies. But besides Coco, other VTubers of Hololive have also seen similar tactics being used, but not in the same way Coco does. After all, they are all mediocre at best at using English. They can't possibly use the same strategy as Coco, which they either will fail to do so because of their inadequate English, or risk duplicating their traits with Coco. So instead they choose the most obvious options, which is to speak broken English. This might seem kinda silly, but the English-speaking VTuber community, or the anime community in general, are really obsessed with anime girls speaking broken English. This might be attributed to their compassion towards non-native English speakers, and the cuteness that ensues when said non-native English speakers had spoken English that might be different from the messages they were trying to convey. And as a strategy they deployed is to build connections with the overseas audience. Besides directly speaking English, they would also try to communicate with overseas audiences by doing interactions, such as asking what English words means what, how to say something in English, directly addressing the overseas audiences, talks about their experiences with overseas foreigners or viewers, etc. These are just a few examples of what they have done, but these have warranted them so much overseas viewers. If you search the keywords Hololive overseas, you can see a lot of clips of them talking about overseas viewers that have garnered so much views. This is the ingenuity of this strategy, where if you can't speak English but still want to expand your market to reach the English-speaking audience, just find someone to do it for you. They even do it for free, which is all the free promotional materials that other companies tried so hard to achieve. But of course, it's not just a subtitle group themselves that's doing all the hard work. The VTubers themselves would also need to generate enough material for them to help promote your channel. That's where the previously mentioned free-range tactic comes into play, where they are free to do whatever they want to attract subtitle groups to do highlight clips for them. Needless to say, their promotional strategies are very successful. Their degree of success is so great that it even reflects to the general English-speaking anime community and back to Japan. This can be seen in two cases. First, one of the biggest NycTraffic, Gallagher, had talked about VTubers and specifically mentions Kiru Coco in their anime-related podcast, Trash Taste. Second, an unofficial financial report shows that Hololive had received an all-time high profit and even surpasses Nichisanji after the 4th Gen debut, which is really impressive. As with many other things in the world, there's no such thing as plain sailing all the way. Besides the first struggling months of Hololive, there was actually an incident that I think is important enough to mention here for context's sake, and that's the Mr. Xi incident. Mr. Xi is the former manager of Hololive Operation in China, which started their operations of 8th of January 2019. The operation was going pretty smoothly, and everyone in China was enjoying the contents delivered to them. It was then on 18th of July, some user posted a screenshot about Mr. Xi publishing some inappropriate speeches in a group chat with other members of the community about the Kyoto animation arson incident. Quote, "The more they burn, the more popular. They can't even build a new studio with those insurance claims. And if it's me, I would also burn it myself." These are some rather radical statements, and obviously the Chinese Hololive community and the Chinese VTuber community in general were pretty outraged about this, and they did what the internet is best at doing, cancelling the hell out of him. This is the China VTuber scene, and if you had watched my last video about the Game Club project, you will know what exactly the Chinese subtitle groups had did. Some, but not all, of Hololive's subtitle groups had posted statements calming the public before Cover Corp posted any statement. One even started to claim those are fake news and go as far as deleting comments on this manner in forums. Then there were video proof of the screenshots not being fake, and one of the chat group members even claims that the conversations were real. Then more screenshots of the group chat were being leaked, accusing one of the group members, which is a leader of one of the subtitle groups, of having overly radical speeches in the group in an attempt to support Mr. Xi. There were also screenshots pointing out Mr. Xi had published inappropriate speeches about, first, since he has the ability to plan the content of Bilibili exclusive streams, during the planning of Akai Hato stream, he mentions that, "I want to make her cry." Second, his DMs were being dismissed by Hololive VTubers, probably due to constant harassment. Last but not least, mentioning his power to swap auditioners to match his favor when auditioning. These are some pretty serious accusations that might ruin Mr. Xi's reputation forever. At this point, the tides had started to turn, and a lot more people, including the subtitle groups, were starting to denounce Mr. Xi. What truly broke the camel's back was on 19th of July, where all Hololive subtitle groups had posted statements that they started a strike, and until they were being responded by Mr. Xi, they would halt all translation work. This directly forces Mr. Xi to apologize on Twitter. On the next day, 20th of July, Cover Corp posted a statement in Twitter mentioning their business in China, but did not mention Mr. Xi. It was until 21st of July they posted a final statement in their official website, titling "Notice on Termination of Contracts of a Manager that Supported the Business in China." In the statement, they explicitly stated that they will be terminating the contract with Mr. Xi due to publishing inappropriate statements in a group chat that would later be published by a third-party member before fully understanding the situation. In the statement, it also stated that, after consulting with related VTuber, there was no harassment. Mr. Xi later on 22nd of July in his personal blog gave a public apology for his wrongdoings. In November, he had resigned from his original position from a Chinese internet technology company. Cover Corp certainly did respond a bit late, but nonetheless they did take up the responsibility and fired the manager. Props to them. This incident, however, did show how the Chinese operation branch were having excessive power and how it can be easily abused. In my opinion, although this might be counterintuitive, but I think a restructure might be needed in order to prevent similar incidents happening. What if the new operational manager have a worse personality and do things that are worse than Mr. Xi? How can Cover Corp promise such things wouldn't be happening again? I think this can also extend to the recent Yosela Maris incident, where there were constant harassment towards said VTuber, and even though she called the cops, there was nothing she can do, which also forced her to cancel the 3D stream due to not being able to go to the office, afraid of being stalked and harassed. Then Cover Corp's statement came out, and turns out it was related to one of their staff. But what if Mel never posted that statement on Twitter and never contacted the police? Would this become the second Game Club project where the higher-ups failed to discover or maybe even knowingly allow such things happening under their nose? That's why I think an independent audit or even a restructure might need to happen, because they just can't promise such things will never happen again. Despite all of the above, I still think Hololive will thrive in the future. They now have a very loyal fan base, an absurd amount of funding, and the attention from all around the world. The trends of Hololive are still very strong, and I don't think the incidents I mentioned above will hinder Hololive's development. That's why I named Part 3 a few minor hiccups. These are just a few wounds that will make Hololive a better place for all the audience around the globe. I'm very interested in the 5th gen's debut as of writing the script. They will definitely carry the weight of the previous generations and will impact the whole VTuber industry in a way that we had never seen before. I hope I won't be disappointed.